the Graying Tower alone on the sea. You became the light on the dark side of me. Love remains a drug that's the high and not the pill. But did you know that when it snows, my eyes become large and the light that you shine can't be seen? A man can tell me so much, he can say. You remain my power, my pleasure, my pain, baby. To me you're like a grown addiction that I can't deny. Won't you tell me, is that healthy, baby? But did you know that when it snows, my eyes become large and the light that you shine can't be seen? So much a man can tell me, so much he can say. You remain my power, my pleasure, my pain. To me you're like a grown addiction that I can't deny. Now won't you tell me, is that healthy, baby? But did you know that when it snows, my eyes become large and the light that you shine can't be seen?
Radio 2.
2 uur, Jasper Leegwater met het NOS-journaal. In Al-Hamdaniya in Irak zijn bij een brand tijdens een bruiloftsfeest minstens 100 mensen om het leven gekomen. 150 mensen zijn gewond geraakt. Volgens lokale media werd de brand veroorzaakt door vuurwerk dat tijdens de bruiloft is afgestoken. De brand raasde vervolgens door een grote evenementenhal. Lokale bronnen vermoeden dat het dodental verder op zal lopen. Het demissionaire kabinet wil dat de NS opnieuw naar het plan voor een spitsheffing gaat kijken. De NS is van plan om voor treinreizen in de ochtend- en avondspits een heffing van maximaal €2,50 te vragen. Die heffing zou ingaan vanaf 2026, maar demissionair staatssecretaris Heijnen vindt dat het nieuwe kabinet en de Tweede Kamer daar uitdrukkelijke instemming voor moeten geven. Een meerderheid van de huidige Tweede Kamer is tegen de spitsheffing. Zij stellen dat veel mensen niet de keuze hebben om buiten de spits te reizen. Bijna de helft van de Oekraïense vluchtelingen in Nederland is aan het werk, meldt het CBS. Vooral vrouwen hebben hier nu een baan. De helft van de Oekraïners werkt in de zakelijke dienstverlening, vaak via een uitzendbureau. Ook werken in de bedrijfstak handel, vervoer en horeca is onder Oekraïense vluchtelingen populair. Oekraïense vluchtelingen die na de Russische invasie naar Nederland kwamen, konden gelijk aan het werk, in tegenstelling tot andere vluchtelingen van buiten de EU. De Inktspotprijs voor de beste politieke tekening van het parlementaire jaar is gewonnen door Bas van der Schot. Het is een tekening van een ijsbeer die zich met een van zijn poten heeft vastgelijmd op de ijsschots waar hij op zit. De tekening is een verwijzing naar de acties van de klimaatactiegroep Extinction Rebellion eind vorig jaar. Toen plakten klimaatactivisten zich vast aan verschillende bekende schilderijen en gooiden soep over kunstwerken. Het weer. Vannacht blijft het droog bij een graad of 10. Daarbij kan wat mist ontstaan. Vooral in het westen kan die lokaal wat dikker worden. In de ochtend lost de mist vrij snel op en wisselen zon en wolken elkaar af. Het wordt dan 20 tot 25 graden. Dit was het NOS Journaal.
Het NPO Radio 2 Top 2000 dossier.
Bones.
Er is maar één.
starry night. Paint your palette blue and gray. Look out on a summer's day with eyes that know the darkness in my soul. Shadows on the hills. Sketch the trees and the daffodils. Catch the breeze and the winter chills in colors on the snowy linen land. Now I understand what you tried to say to me, and how you suffered for your sanity, and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they did not know how. Perhaps they'll listen now. Starry, starry night. Flaming flowers that brightly blaze. Swirling clouds in violet haze. Reflect in Vincent's eyes of china blue. Colors changing hue. Morning fields of amber grain. Weathered faces lined in pain are soothed beneath the artist's loving hand. Now I understand what you tried to say to me, and how you suffered for your sanity, and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they did not know how. Perhaps they'll listen now, for they could not love you, but still your love was true. And when no hope was left inside on that starry, starry night, you took your life as lovers often do. But I could have told you, Vincent, this world was never meant for one as beautiful as you. Starry, starry night. Portraits hung in empty halls. Frameless heads on nameless walls. With eyes that watch the world and can't forget. Like the strangers that you've met. The ragged men in ragged clothes. A silver thorn, a bloody rose, lie crushed and broken on the virgin snow. Now I think I know.
É isso aí, você está curtindo o melhor da música inglesa, curtindo essa viagem por Amsterdã. Fique aqui conosco. Eu, né? E sai lá, Gabriel. Deixa aqui. Agora você está curtindo as ruas de Barcelona? Agora você está curtindo as ruas de Barcelona?
Interestingly, there are states like Arkansas, Indiana, and Louisiana reporting significantly fewer drug deaths right now. And frankly, the experts I've spoken to just haven't been able to explain these patterns. We don't know why those big disparities are happening.
So these numbers are drug deaths, but as you've explained, it's mostly fentanyl deaths. What is being done to keep fentanyl off the streets?
Yeah, the Biden administration has ramped up efforts to target Mexican drug cartels that are supplying this fentanyl. Today, the White House announced new sanctions against the Sinaloa cartel. Some cities are trying to disrupt street drug markets where fentanyl is being sold directly to people with addiction. And this is in part a response to a lot of growing public concern. You know, along with the overdose deaths, we're seeing more public use of drugs right now. It's more visible, more disruptive, and that sparked community backlash. But I have to say most experts I talk to are skeptical that fentanyl trafficking can be slowed. It's a uniquely easy drug to make and smuggle, so keeping it off the streets in places like Portland and Las Vegas and New York City, you know, so far nobody's figured out how to do that.
So if fentanyl is not likely to go away, what's being done to reduce the number of deaths from the drug?
Well, the Biden administration's rolled out a bunch of new policies to try to make addiction treatment more available. They've made naloxone available to buy over the counter. That's the nasal spray that reverses opioid overdoses. State and local governments are spending more money to try to make treatment available. But these efforts are running headlong into big problems like homelessness and social isolation, a more toxic street supply of drugs that's really hurting people. So what I'm hearing from experts is that this is a public health crisis, Ari, that's not going to be fixed anytime soon.
It's NPR addiction correspondent Brian Mann. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari.
The state of Louisiana has asked for a federal emergency because of salt water that is moving up the Mississippi River. The slow-moving salty water has already seeped into drinking supplies in southern Louisiana, and it's moving up towards New Orleans. Hallie Parker with member station WWNO joins us now. Hi, Hallie.
Hi.
Okay, so I've heard this called a saltwater wedge. What does that mean, and why is this happening?
Yes, okay, so saltwater wedge 101. Right now we're in a historic drought all throughout the Mississippi River watershed, right? So there's way less water flowing down the river than usual. And, you know, when that happens, salt water from the Gulf of Mexico can migrate upriver along the river's bottom, which is actually below sea level.
Has this happened before?
Yeah, so this is actually cyclical. It tends to happen once a decade down here, but usually it doesn't extend as far north as New Orleans, nor does it happen in back-to-back years like it is right now. The last time the salt water made it up this far up the river was in 1988, and it only stuck around for a few days, but officials here like Governor John Bell Edwards have warned this time it's different.
Based on the current forecast, this event will be more severe and of longer duration. But there is no need for panic.
No need for panic. Okay, well, how are residents actually reacting right now?
Well, as you can imagine, there's a lot of anxiety around this. I know of people walking around grocery stores and leaving with 8 cases of bottled water, even though the city of New Orleans itself won't see effects until late October. So there's just a lot of questions about how safe it will be to drink and bathe in the water. Plus, salt water can actually be corrosive and damaging to pipes. New Orleans, like a lot of other areas, have a lot of lead pipes still left over, so there's concern about heavy metals leaching out.
And areas south of New Orleans have already experienced problems with their water, so what's the plan for them?
So a sparsely populated area southeast of New Orleans called Plaquemines Parish actually didn't have clean tap water starting in June.
Wow.
And at that time, it was confined to about 2,000 people without water, and the local parish ended up distributing more than 1.5 million gallons of water, a ton. And as the salt water moves north, it might affect drinking water for nearly 1 million people. So officials across all levels of government know that they have to scale up response. Right now, they have an underwater barrier to slow the salt water to buy them time. There's plans to eventually ship in up to 36 million gallons of fresh water per day to help water treatment plants dilute the salt and keep it to safe levels, which will take a lot of giant barges.
Right.
And If the salt level becomes unsafe or starts to affect infrastructure, we'll start to see distribution of bottled water and bulk water across this region, just like we did in Plaquemines Parish.
Do you think there's a chance that this kind of situation will happen more often in the future?
Well, as the sea levels just continue to rise and weather like droughts grow more extreme due to human-caused climate change, the experts that I talk to say that this is unlikely to become a new normal, which is important, but we could start seeing it more frequently. And that means we need to start thinking about long-term adaptation.
That is Hallie Parker of WWNO in New Orleans. Thank you so much, Hallie.
Thank you, Elsa.
This is NPR News.
A lot of people can no longer live near their jobs, but for Forest Service staff in Colorado's Rocky Mountains, it's become almost impossible.
More than half of the time we offer a job, people are saying I can't. Would love to, but I can't afford it. I need housing.
Now the Forest Service is working with a private developer to build affordable housing in the park. So who gets in? That's on the next morning edition from NPR News.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Elsa Chang. It's not hard to imagine how terrifying the world will be if we allow climate change to keep unfurling unfettered. And maybe that's why it's not a huge leap to believe the dystopian future that C. Pam Zhang lays out in her new novel, Land of Milk and Honey. A thick smog has ravaged the Earth's ecosystems. Crops die, biodiversity vanishes, the global food supply chain disintegrates, and the sensual pleasure of a good meal is a distant memory. For most people, anyway. High on a mountaintop on the Italian-French border, a research community bioengineers and hoards rare ingredients and species. Only the most exclusive wealthy people have access to this community. And then a chef, looking for a job, shows up. What unfolds is a story of greed, the perversion of science, and the elusiveness of pleasure. C. Pam Zhang joins us now. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being with us. You are someone who clearly appreciates the sensual pleasure of food. That is immediately apparent when you read your novel. Well, what was your relationship to food like growing up? I'm so curious.
Oh, that's so funny. Growing up, I was a very picky eater.
Really?
I was a horrible child, probably. I was afraid of eating most meat that wasn't white meat chicken, which is an affront in Chinese families, of course. Yes. I was just disgusted by things outside my realm of experience, including, for example, cheese, right? If you haven't grown up in a culture that introduces cheese early, it's rotting milk. It's disgusting. And so it was both a natural pickiness and the fact that my family was very poor growing up, and so we couldn't afford to eat out. And it wasn't until my senior year of high school that, bored, I began reading food blogs. And so it was interesting to me how I came to food through the narrative possibilities first, how it was a portal into other people's lives, how I was reading how others experience food first. That made me want to feel those same things.
I mean, your descriptions of food in this book are so graphic, but there was one thing I was wondering about, and that is how much you actually like meat. You mentioned that you only ate white meat chicken, but do you even like meat? Because some of these meat dishes you describe made me gag, like that scene with the limbs. I don't want to give anything else away, but I kind of wanted to vomit in my mouth when I was reading that. What do you even like to eat meat?
I love meat now, and I'm a very happy carnivore. At the same time, I do think that I had to come around to enjoying meat by understanding like where it came from. I do believe that if you are going to eat meat, you should be able to look at a raw chicken carcass with the head and the feet and the organs and understand where everything is coming from.
Taking the full consequences of your ingestion.
Exactly. And to me, that actually makes the meat like more delicious and more succulent because I understand the kind of the value of it. And also it kind of does mean that the older I've gotten, the less meat I eat. I think it just doesn't agree with me as much.
I'm kind of in the opposite direction. I fully want to deny that the thing was a living animal before I put it into my mouth. Well, you know the person behind all of this food that you talk about in this novel. It's the chef, the narrator of the story. Why did you choose to give her no name? Oh, I'm actually surprised that that's a decision you didn't realize you made.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it because it was a decision that I realized I had made when I was done with the book, frankly. But I think when I reached deep into my subconscious, the chef is nameless because so much of the book is about identity and crafting an identity and then discarding an identity and sort of changing fundamentally who you are over the course, in the case of this book, of a dramatic year. And so I think that the namelessness of the chef really ties into these ideas of reinvention and constant rediscovery, and perhaps fundamentally on some level, never fully knowing who you are, but that not always being a negative quality.
What an interesting answer. So her identity evolves over time, but you know her race does not. You made a very distinct choice to make her Asian in this novel. Why was that important for this character to be Asian?
Yeah, so I've been thinking for a long time, probably my entire lifetime, about the loaded duality of being an Asian woman in America, but then increasingly in the world, right? Where you're simultaneously hyper visible, hypersexualized, and invisible, right? So many of us have the experience of being mistaken for other Asian women who look nothing like us, who are 20 or 30 years older, younger. Yeah,
Several
you
inches
know what I'm
taller.
talking about.
Yes.
Several
Oh, yes.
inches
It's
taller,
happened
different
many, many
hair.
times in
Yeah,
my life.
Anyways, and so that was so key to this character who would kind of give up all of herself to take this last chance at this grand job on this mountain enclave in the book, right? I'm thinking about this Tressie McMillan Cottom idea of beauty being violence, and expanding upon that, the act of making oneself desirable for a job, for a relationship, for anything, is also a violence, right? There's so much warping of oneself and reshaping of oneself to fit into a mold. And I think that Asian women do that every day.
You know, when I step back and I think about the very existence of this research community, it feels like not only that you're snickering at the confidence of rich people who think they can change the world, but I feel like you're also snickering at our confidence in science to fix our problems. Is that a fair interpretation?
I love that you picked up on the snickering. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful interpretation. I am a deep lover of science, and to me it's a little bit like magic because it is so much out of my own domain. But at the same time with this book, I was thinking a lot about how scientific progress can become a form of self-interest, right? And in the case of environmental science, a form of self-interest that's coded as selfless. Isn't it the ultimate form of human hubris to imagine that we alone can and must come up with a solution to save the planet? It puts humanity at the center of a story that is so many billions of years older than us, that has so many more actors in the form of other flora and fauna. And so perhaps what you're picking up on with the snickering is that one thing that continues to give me hope is the idea of that if humanity really messes it up and we make ourselves extinct, the planet will survive without us. The planet will be just fine, and that is a strange comfort.
I love that. C. Pam Zhang's new book is called Land of Milk and Honey. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you. That was really fun. What a delight.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News. Federal wildland firefighters have faced staffing shortages and low morale for more than a decade. Lawmakers attempted to create a fix by increasing their pay, but the money for that pay is running out. NPR politics reporter Jimena Bustillo has the story.
Rachel Granberg didn't plan on being a firefighter.
I wanted to be a wildlife biologist.
That's what she went to grad school for. But along the way, she found herself working for the federal